Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kanaan or Canaan. And yeah, basically, uh, this is a regional grouping. So, as you can see, you have Ramses in here. It's not like an ethnical grouping, so much, or more like from like a Egyptian perspective, regional. So uh, Ramses' enemy here is Kanana, and with the capital of Kanana. So essentially, this is that area. So for those who don't know, Kanana was like the province from the Egyptian administration that actually controlled the vassal network here. And Ramses here is essentially just taking over that vassal network and probably gonna become the leader of this area. So while his faction itself is actually not, um, I don't think there's much new to it from vanilla, except of course all the rebalancing of units and stuff. Uh, so if you're familiar from vanilla with his playstyle, this will play pretty similarly. As you can see, like military modifier, some resource but still modifier, and then recruitment. So like military plus modifier play. So with modifier play, I'm referring to the three, um, let's say, happiness, influence, and then growth. So you're gonna like max those out and then get reap the benefits of what that gives you, because for example high influence gives you more resource production and so on. So while also being a military focused build or playthrough, so you can essentially just pump out these already pretty good tier 5 units, but at high veterancy. And in this mod, veterancy actually scales differently. So higher the veterancy, the better. Like base morale is lower than in vanilla, while while that morale then scales to similar or slightly higher max morale than in vanilla, or I think about the same. Yeah, anyhow, so uh, in order for your units to be way more reliable, you need that veterancy. So yeah, strong infantry, pretty decent, like mid-tier archers, strong chariots, uh, decent, I would say, javelins plus two-handeds, but pretty decent roster, but also pretty expensive roster to be honest. Then we have Irsu here. So Irsu is, I would say, bloody damn strong. He has an ethnically mixed roster, and as you can see, his faction is Karu, which was the Egyptian name for the Hurrians, but sometimes, because Egyptians, they like apply the term also to everyone else, but also to the Hurrians. So when the Egyptian sources calls him like a Karu, it's really hard to like know, do they actually mean a Hurrian or do they just mean some barbarian from this area. So he's an Karu, so because he's an Karu, he also gets an Hurrian roster. Hence why you have like Hurri Ishawaunes. I can't even pronounce all this stuff. But yeah. So Not many of his units are actually unique, but he actually gets units from all over the place. So he also then has, like, you can see Akkadian named units. So they're more like from the more Akkadian sphere, I guess. You have Canaan, or like Canaanite named units. You have, you know, Hittite named units. So if you actually want to play like a ethnically mixed playthrough, a warlord, he's your guy. And yeah, you can probably see his playthrough already. Modifiers. Although I don't know if you can actually build these in all buildings or just in the main city of a province, but still pretty strong. Resource boosts. You have military boost, raiding, loot. Like, yeah, it's not an faction to sit on your butt and just build on civilization. You're supposed to like get out there and do stuff. While here we have Bay. Also not very much has changed from vanilla, but he gets one more unit, which is actually shared with, I think, Ashiru here and then Ugaritu up here. It's essentially an Phoenician unit based on his Okvim unit. Otherwise, it's pretty samey. So he gets many units that are, I would say, decent, but also they have like, I would say his roster is decent. It's pretty light on armor, except his new unit here. But here is, in my opinion, where his faction shines. You can see resource production boost, modifier boosts, and then a production building. So with this guy, you'll probably get a lot more like production out of your provinces than most others. Maybe Taushat can give him a run for the money, but you can also see administrative burden goes higher, which is, too bad, but hey. Although I would say for unit part, the strongest units are actually in the local recruitment pool, which are these three that you can see here. He can actually, or actually these four, he can build pretty decent tier 4 armies, to be perfectly frank. And he gets them from the local recruitment pool. His own guys, like in this rebalance, the missile damage, as you can see, is pretty low for these slingers. Although slingers have a lot deadlier close ranged fire. So if you utilize slingers, you actually want to be doing that, not be wasting your ammunition on this 200-meter max range. For that, if you want to shoot far, I would recommend going with these. But yeah, he's a pretty economy focused guy. Then we have Yehoshua here, which for anyone who doesn't know is the same dude from the Bible. And yeah, in principle, like it's around this time when his seed is supposed to be made not, if you listen to the Merneptah Stele by either Merneptah or Seti in Merneptah's name. So he actually has, plus if you read the Old Testament, it's pretty strong militaristic stuff that it spouts when it comes to Yehoshua, and it's basically like this game's Putin, if you will. So imagining that, you can um, imagine right the like religious seal that this brings, similar to how you saw in the last video how the Hemnetcher Amen, or the Waset faction, like gives a lot of legitimacy. His buildings will too give a lot of legitimacy, but they will often be a bit more powerful than the Waset buildings, but they will also have often stronger downsides. So here you get -5 with all factions, which like in the early game isn't too bad, but may actually start biting you in the butt later on. Then you have like Anbedin, which is like a local court of sorts. It's a pretty good building overall, I would say. It only requires like 3 workforce. Then we have like an building which is meant to be like, okay, what happens after, like you went all Putinist and nuts and you killed a bunch of people. Now you need to like make up for that somehow and reconcile differences and all this, and that's what this building is giving you. It's giving you that diplomatic plus. That last building gave you 5 minus, 2 plus, 10 plus. So far we're on the plus side, right? Then we have this commandment to conquer, which I took directly inspiration from the Bible itself. It gives you a bunch of um, pretty strong boost, if you ask me. Like if there's a battle in the province, your units will get plus 20 morale. Basically, they'll work like unbreakable fanatics. The upkeep is like -50, but you can see the downsides: -10 in happiness, -10 in diplomatic relations. So if you end up building all 4, I think you actually end up on net with a -3 diplomatic relation. And from memory, these buildings, at least the temple, takes a damn long time to build too. So yeah, like legitimacy, it's legitimacy, military, some maybe slight economics, but then often minus happiness and diplomacy. So it's a mixed bag faction. Like when it comes to the buildings, then the units are basically slinger. So he gets like the faction's strongest slingers, strong spear unit. So here we have another spear unit, and these actually units are made by Avila and are taken from the Israel mod. So if you're familiar with that, he gets pretty strong like two-handed faction units. Like the overall the infantry side of his faction is kind of strong, but you'll notice he lacks archers, so that long range deadliness, while that short range deadliness is pretty high, like with the javelins and the slingers. But that long range stuff, you only have the local recruit from the local recruitment pool, the Syrian archers. And you'll notice no chariots. So it's a little bit different way of fighting. You'll be like infantry heavy. If you only go with these unit should be infantry heavy and slinger heavy, will be my guess. Then we got Ashiru here of Gebal. So it's Gebal and not Geval because it's in the northern Canaanite dialect. So the southern dialect would pronounce it Geval, but I chose the northern since the faction is up there. And this is among the most Canaanite like unit rosters you can get, in my opinion. Like virtually everything here is just Canaanite, so no like multi-ethnic stuff or whatever. So a lot of these units are actually taken from other factions, but it sort of like neatly ties all the Canaanite factions from other places into like one pool. So you have strong slings, you have pretty strong infantry actually. You have like these infantries here, and then one Gubla specific unit plus the Phoenician unit here. So pretty heavy infantry, I would say. Pretty decent chariots, but lacking in the archery department, while the actual buildings is very timber focused. So this is the, I would say, strongest timber or wood producing faction in the game. So often towards I would say mid game, wood will become the most valuable in the game. So you'll be making handsome amounts of resources in return if you build this out. So you get over double the amount of wood production. Plus then you have like the modifier advantage as well. So you can like build one of these libraries in a newly conquered city that will then start, ticking all those modifiers up, help you pacify stuff. It's but very very wood heavy. If I were you, I would just try to rush everything with like places, settlement regions that you find with uh, heavy wood content and stuff like that. And then we have the Habiru. They're over here actually. So the Habiru historically, like this is not really historically accurate Habiru because the historically accurate Habiru is virtually impossible to create in this context of this game because the Habiru were settled and semi-nomadic and some switch between like nomadism and settled lifestyles, but they weren't nomads, which is like the much later biblical account, and then that memory of that account projected backwards into the Bronze Age. In this time period they're like the term Habiru is a diplomatic slur, which all these Hassanu or like rulers of the city states would be, labeling each other. Like, so we have like Amarna letters to Menefer, or I think maybe Akhenaten, or sorry, Akhetaten, where one Hassanu is like calling another Hassanu on Habiru to try to like basically decrease the favor that an so-called Habiru has in the Pharaoh's eyes, and then maybe favor the guy calling him an Habiru. So there's a bunch of that, but Habiru as groups of peoples also existed, but the way they did exist in this region is quite different from like the traditional mindset that people have of well, the way this game paints it, like you have one settlement, one region, then you have one province, but these guys were actually just like, imagine a mosaic, like tiny little dots all over the place with tiny little villages of Habirus all over the place. So like that's basically what they how they lived. So like up in the mountains, not too far from like the city states, but still outside the city state's control. And then they, harvested some crops and whatever, and they lived like that. And then often they also um, took jobs as mercenaries in different Hassanus armies. So we have, for example of Abdi Ashirta um, hiring these guys to then fight against other Hassanu and so on. And peop- like people, or I would say rulers in this area, they didn't like the Habiru, but the Habiru also sort of inspired some level of respect because of it. But anyhow, that's the last faction for this video. I'll be changing categories again to Nimue Shay. So that's the next video. So thanks for watching, and yeah, see you later, alligator.